Okay.
And yes, Pete.
Go ahead.
Hi, Leonardo.
How you doing?
Muy bien, gracias. As Arnie, you did an incredible performance,
Thank
very
you.
difficult one. I'd like to know if it was a difficult task in your career and how did you prepare for it?
I prepared for it by actually going to a home with about 10 of these kids, and I really researched what they were doing and trying to decipher how they thought about life and what they did as far as all the different actions, all the different movements that they had, because they're much different, obviously, from what we are like. So it was just a matter of me getting the right way I wanted to go with it, because there's a lot of different ways to go with it. And I just rehearsed that and just went in there and sort of did it.
Mm-hmm. Was it a difficult task in your career to play a character that is mentally disabled?
I looked at it more as like a challenge, you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily, it was difficult at times to get, like, if I was around the set waiting to do a shot and I was being Leo and I had to go in and be Arnie, you have to pop into it right away for when camera starts rolling, so it's difficult to just get my mind onto thinking about nothing again. So, yeah, it was difficult. I'd say it was more challenging, though. And I looked at it in a more positive light than it being difficult.
Is this the most difficult character you have done in your career?
Yeah. I mean, to do anything, to completely transform yourself and get rid of everything that you do in normal life, to get rid of everything that Leo, me, that I do when I'm, being myself, I had to completely wipe that out and start with a clean slate and just transform myself into Arnie.
Now I understand the director helped you a lot to develop this character. As you mentioned, you could have gone in many different ways once you prepare, but you chose the one we saw in the big screen. How did it go working with the director, helping you to develop your character?
It happened very quickly. We discovered the how to do the character pretty much right in the beginning. We knew what we wanted, because Lost is the type of guy who's very honest with you. He's not going to beat around the bush and not tell you something that isn't necessarily straight to the truth. Mm-hmm. And he was also from Sweden, so he couldn't help but be honest. So we, I don't know, we got along really great, me and Lasse. We're both mm-hmm. kind of honest with each other, and when you do that, the film always seems to work out.
Now, this is a movie that is not a commercial movie. It's a very unique story that is coming to the big screen in a country where the box office is usually very commercialized. What was it like working in this project, and how would you describe it to the audience?
I describe it as a real warm type of film
mm-hmm.
that shows a lot of different emotions of real people. It shows how the character of Gilbert Grape discovers himself through the actions of his family and through the actions of Juliette Lewis's character, who sort of comes in as sort of this ghost-like figure who sort of creeps into the town and teaches Gilbert a lot of things, and then Gilbert completely changes. And it took that outside force to get him away from his home life and change. It's a lot about how people find themselves. It's a lot about family love and the closeness between family, even though there's been a lot of tension in the past. And it's a lot about responsibility, and people can get, and then there's a lot of humor in it too, a lot of humor.
Now
that comes about naturally, though. It's not like planned.
No, it's good. Now, working with an European director compared to an American director, he has done only 2 movies in America, in the United States. What was it like? You have worked with other directors in the past.
I'd say that foreign directors have a pretty good sense of what's going on. I mean, if they have a natural gift, which Lasse and Michael Caton-Jones did This Boy's mm-hmm. Life. They both, even though they couldn't necessarily communicate with you like how you do with other people in Los Angeles, say, they just had a natural sense of how to work with actors, and language was just no barrier. It didn't conflict at all. Mm-hmm. So when you work with a good director, that's all you really have to concentrate on, not where they're from.
Now the movie is being released at the time. There is very important for directors and for actors, because it's a time where the Academy will look into their performances mm-hmm. to see if they will get a nomination. Your performance was excellent.
Thank you.
And very difficult. Do you think you'll get a nomination?
I don't think I'm going to think about that, because if I do, then I might expect something to happen instead of just waiting to see if, all I really wanted people to just see the film and get out of it what they want to get out of it. And if that comes about, obviously I'd be extremely excited. So, but I'm not going to expect anything. If that thing comes, then I'll deal with it then.
Well, assuming that you already had it, what would it do to your life, to your career?
Assuming that I already had it?
Yeah, assuming that you would get it.
Wow, gosh, I'd imagine, the only thing I could really think about is what the hell I would say in front of 3 million people or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know. It's all pretty much new to me, this whole fame thing. So I'm just going to take it by ear and not think about it that much.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about your experience working with Johnny Depp and Juliet. Your characters are very different. He's very into himself, and you're like, full of life.
I think they're two extremely talented actors, and it's great to work with people that I know are around my age range, that are young and yet really talented. It was great to be in a movie with them, and they were also very supportive because they knew what type of character Arnie was, and they knew that I needed space to just, haul off and burp in their face, or whatever. They knew I needed to do that, so they were very patient with me.
Now, as a young actor, what are the things that you look into when you select a character, when you go into a project or a movie?
I'd say I like to do films based in reality a lot. Try to do films that have some real content to them. Not necessarily like my own life, but if I believe that this is really going on, those are the type of films that I strive for a lot.
What are you working on for the future?
I'm doing a movie called The Quick and the Dead with Sharon Stone and Gene Hackman, and I play this sort of Billy the Kid type character, this real cocky kind of guy who has a wife and flirts with Sharon Stone, and he shoots all the tough guys that think they're better than him, and they were just he's the fastest gunslinger, and at the end I'm constantly trying to prove to my dad that I'm his real son, which he doesn't believe. He sort of shuns me off, so I'm constantly proving to Gene Hackman's character that I'm his son, and at the end we sort of square off. It's a something real different than what I've done before, so that's why I'm doing it.
Now, looking into the 90s and to the future, do you see good characters being written for young people? Yeah,
I'd say so. I think although there's a big surge of commercial films going on a lot nowadays, there seems to be a lot of good things happening. I mean, I think it's picking up. I mean, I felt a little weird about it at first, as far as the business was going, but now I think there's a lot of interest, not just for my age, but in any age range. There's, I don't know, a lot of good different stuff coming about, rather than the typical stuff that's been done over and over and over again.
So do you prefer drama or comedy?
I don't really prefer anything. I want to do whatever strikes me as something that I feel good about. I don't want to say that I'm just going to do one area, because I want to do it all.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Was I close to my time, or?
Yeah, you've got 2 minutes.
Yes, I think I got enough.
I was very big. I wasn't as big as Kirk Cameron, I'll tell you that much. But I had some teen following. I don't know about that teen thing. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good for publicity, but they don't. It's almost like they're not actors. You know what I mean? And it's like they portray them as sort of a piece of meat. Here's the new cute thing. Take a look at him and go ooh ah. So I didn't dig that. No, I wanted to do characters which I could really get into and really act and make things reality, and not something contrived. You know what I mean? I don't really have that anymore. It's sort of gone. It's sort of diminished. Thank God. No, especially for somebody my age, to do a character like this, a lot of that is offered to people who are older, men who are older, like Dustin Hoffman's character, and So I knew this was one of those characters that just I had to do, and I had to do it, and I had to prove to Lasse I was going to do it. So after he cast me, I went to a home, and I met about 10 kids with disabilities, and I wanted to make this crystal clear how I wanted to do this. I picked up stuff from them. It was a lot of little twitches and a lot of they did a lot of swaying from back and forth. But Arnie was just sort of something I made up in a way. I like took little things, you know, I borrowed stuff, but then I made it my own. I guess he is a hero in his own way. I didn't really think of it like a hero. I thought of it more as a person finding himself, and I guess that is kind of, you know, heroic. He's a real instinctive character. He acts a lot on what's directly in front of him, doesn't have a lot of necessarily deep thoughts about life. He sort of is extremely spontaneous and thinks about only the outcome of a situation. For example, when he climbs the water tower, the thought doesn't even flow through his mind that he could fall off this water tower and die. All he knows is that when he gets up there, he's really excited because everyone's saying, "Arnie, Arnie, come down." All he sees is, you know, the big fire engine lights and everyone screaming his name, and he gets lots of attention. So that's how he sort of operates. I learned a lot from the character because he was such an instinctive person, and that's how, you know, I'd like to be like that in some ways, you know. It was great to work with actors that are so young yet so talented. I mean, you know, I'm young too, but just a younger type group of talent. Johnny and I wanted to have a sort of real strong brotherly connection in this movie because you know that Arnie's been with him for 18 years, and they sort of have that unspoken language, which is just through a little series of a lot of looks and little, like, you know, little movements, Arnie would know what to do, you know? And nothing necessarily needed to be said to prove that. It would just be us being with each other. And Arnie was like his father figure.
I've heard like some talk about maybe award or Oscar nomination and stuff like that. How does that strike you?
Man, I love it. You know that. You know I'd love it. But it's not like I'm gonna expect it, you know? You gotta let these things come if they come, and if they don't, then you just, you know, you don't think about it. Just deal with it if it comes in front of you, then that's when I'll start thinking about it. But right now, it's a little thought in my mind, but nothing major. Wow, tough question. Yeah. It's one of those films, you know, that you can't necessarily categorize in one specific area, but if I had to, it would be about a guy finding himself, Gilbert Grape finding himself, and letting go of his responsibilities for the first time in his life and actually looking at himself and his life and what he wants out of life. And that's where the Juliette Lewis character comes in. She sort of is like this ghost-like figure who comes into town, who teaches him about himself. But it's a story about life. It's a story about a guy finding himself, basically. And I thought I couldn't do it. I was reading it and I was like, there's no way I can pull this off. But I just tried to remain true to the character and not try to shy away from it, like deal with it head on and not like do things to cover it up. And I just tried to, you know, make sure that it was real. Oh, hey, what's up? About my character. He's a mentally disabled kid. His name's Arnie. If I was sitting there, I'm thinking swinging my feet and licking the
weighing things maybe.
weighing things. Think you know how to operate an electronic weigher?
We're gonna spray it. Let's dog spray it.
Yeah. Woody?
What else? And then set a bottomer. Set a direct bottomer like this. I was like saying hi to the customer. Does that go out the window or something, you guys?
Thank you.
Behind the wood. Yeah, that's right. Okay, just let it hang, man. It's okay. That takes.
One more thing that I remember on that.
Okay for giveaway?
All right, folks, stand by.
When you're ready, Mr. DiCaprio. Strawberry?
I'm not. Oh, I'm not.
Oh, y'all gonna eat
Oh,
some
well.
of those, great.
It ain't gonna happen.
No, we gotta go.
I'm not gonna eat one.
It's gonna come out.
Been sealed since
Yes!
Are you going to do it?
been sealed since the 30s, man.
Tim?
Oh, you're not gonna eat one.
Okay, could we?
No, I'm not gonna bite into it, Jerry. What will you give me if I bite into it?
Good antibiotic. Don't do it in here. Go outside.
That spoke to you so strongly.
I was a big fan of Lasse Hallström, and My Life as a Dog I remember seeing with my mother in the theaters and being blown away by that film. And I was also a huge fan of Juliette Lewis. I saw Cape Fear and I was just like, this is one of the greatest actresses I've seen come out in this industry in a long time. And of course, getting to work with Johnny Depp was a big thing, but it was the role, you know, it was the role. I remember talking to my agents and them saying to me, look, this is a real, if you really, you know, want to do a special kind of character and really go for something a little different, you know, this could be it for you. So, you know, I really, and Lasse gave us these tapes of a kid that he wanted to model Arnie off of, and you know, I kind of just obsessively watched that for a week and imitated what was on the tapes. Mm-hmm. And then after I got the role, it was a whole other process of, you know, investigating that role.
Now, I don't think you found out until after you'd gotten the part, or maybe even after the movie was done, but Lasse originally didn't want to cast you because he thought you were too good looking.
Oh yeah, that's what I heard afterwards, yeah. Yeah, I remember getting the role. I actually remember the moment when I got Gilbert Grape. I was so excited because I'd said no to a few things, and I was with, I think Toby and my friend Kevin were doing Hot Rod Brown Class Clown or something like that, a television show, and I was in his trailer and we were in an Airstream, and I remember jumping up and down and hitting my head, and we were all sort of celebrating and rolling around and wrestling. It was a great moment. It was like winning the lottery, really.
Yeah. Toby didn't go out for Gilbert Grape, too, did he?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But like I said, I have a terrible memory. Terrible
And he's
memory.
done just fine, so we don't have to feel bad for him. And once you actually landed the role, I understand you continued to sort of study this character by spending time at a home?
Yeah.
For people who had a condition like Arnie's.
I sort of, this was really the first distinct character that I was playing, so I tried to emulate, I suppose, what I saw Bob do on set. And, you know, I said, Lasse, he was kind of involved with structuring the script, and I think he was kind of just expecting me to do what I did in the audition. And I said, well, I'm going to go to, you know, a home in Austin, Texas, and spend some time with some kids who have mental disabilities. And I spent about a week there, and I remember coming to him with this checklist. And it was like 100 different little attributes that I learned from hanging out with these kids. And I said, will you just show me what you want me to do? He's like, no, why don't you just act those out? So I did all of them. I said, I think I'm thinking of 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, 24. And he's like, okay, you do that. And I remember the first day being incredibly nervous, and we did a lot of takes. With Lasse, and I felt like it was a catastrophe. But the more I was on set, the more I got used to the atmosphere and sort of got my, got my feet into the role, it just sort of took on a life of its own. And it was a lot, that role was so fun because I wasn't dependent on the screenplay whatsoever. I mean, I had my own set of rules, I could do whatever the hell I wanted. I mean, sometimes it was like a dramatic scene for Johnny, and I would just be throwing spaghetti in the air, and Lasse would say, "You sure you want to do that?" I'm like, "I don't know. This is what I would be doing." He's like, "Oh, all right, you go for it." And it was incredibly freeing because I didn't have to. We paid attention to the script, but it was so loose. Everything was so incredibly loose and so improvisational, and I really just lived in my own world. It was great. It was awesome. It was a great experience.
And for that role, you were named Best Supporting Actor by the National Board of Review, and you received your first Golden Globe nomination and your first Oscar nomination at the age of 19. Mm-hmm. What was it like going through, that whirlwind? And you probably couldn't have expected that from this small little movie directed by some foreigner.
No, I didn't even know what the hell was going on, to tell you the truth. I just remember when they told me that I was nominated, I was like incredibly excited, shocked, and then my first reaction was I just don't want to go up on stage and accept anything because they told me 1 billion people watched you give award speeches, and I said I don't want to, I told my mom, I don't want to go up there, Mom. She's like, well, you have to go. You have to go. You have to go do this. But I was incredibly shocked. I remember going to a screening and somebody complimented me afterwards, and I was just completely unaware of anything that was going on. It's nowadays you're infused with all this stuff about awards and this and that and box office, and I mean at that time it was just I had no idea. I mean I didn't even read a single review. It was just like a random person coming up to me after seeing a screening saying, "Hey, good job," and I'd be like, "Cool." It was a much different time.
So are you aware that Janet Maslin of the New York Times called your turn show-stopping?
No, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't read anything. It was nice to get a reaction from my friends and people that I knew.
Did that film or the Oscar nomination, change your career? Did you find more offers were coming to you?
Certainly, yeah. After that, for sure, yeah. Things accelerated after that for me, for sure.
Yeah, let's see valet that thing, huh?